always used to think that the biggest snake was Titanoboa, but it turns out that it's actually Amanda. At least according to everyone in this episode, basically. Or it could be Jack too, but either way, this is episode 8 of The Snake. Getting close to the end, y'all. And the reason I said that Jack could be the biggest snake is because this episode was basically just the Jack episode. Also due to the fact that he is now the first person on this show to be a 2-time snake. The challenges episode was basically them having to traverse through this swamp filled with chum. It was absolutely disgusting. They were all covered in it. They were all talking about how smelly it was. Yeah, it looked bad, but they were having to collect medallions and then put them in a crate designated towards them, and then those medallions would then turn into snake eggs, and those snake eggs would be put into a lottery machine, and well, it would just be a randomly selected snake after that. Now the twist here was that there was going to be a secret snake where Jim was not going to reveal who the snake was immediately after the challenge. So I was thinking, okay, he'll probably reveal who it is at the saving ceremony to make things really interesting. And then it turns out that he decided to tell this person who ended up being Jack in the confessional privately just to him. That seemed like a pretty cool twist at least. And then Jim just ended up telling everyone that Jack was a snake anyways, like a whole night before the saving ceremony. So to me, I didn't really get the twist, because it's like Jack really only had that kind of advantage to get more information from people without telling them that he's a snake for like a couple hours probably. So I didn't really get the whole point of that twist, but yes, Jack is the first person on this season to win the snake twice. And well, what do you know, more Jack content this episode. So this is the thing with Jack for me. I appreciate Jack in the sense that he is someone that I can fully root against. You always need that on reality shows. But on the other hand, there's just so much of him in every single episode. Like, I wish that there was just a little less Jack in each of these episodes, and maybe there could be more content from Alyssa, from Amanda. Hell, I'm sure even Brett might have something interesting to say. Because Jack being the snake was not the only stuff from Jack this episode, and there was a lot of Jack and Mac content this episode. On the one hand, I do like the rhyming for their couple name, Jack and Mac, but I just do not care, honestly. I mean, good for them at least, but it's just kind of whack that basically all McLean's content is just talking about Jack, which is why I don't really like her, honestly. She's probably the one person on the season I can say I for sure do not like, because literally all she talks about is Jack. That's it. Well, there was basically just a lot of stress this episode because of the secret snake thing, even if that only didn't last for a few hours, but everyone was scrambling, everyone was trying to figure out, you know, who could be targeted, who could be saved, all that kind of stuff. And I did mention earlier about the biggest snake being Amanda, because that just became a big narrative in this episode, that people are now starting to clock Amanda as this big strategist. They're all starting to clock her as like the biggest snake in the house now. Some of it seemed a little contrived in the edit, although I'm sure a lot of people do generally feel that way about her. She is a lawyer, she is super smart, and again, she's not had like a ton of content, so this was actually a pretty big episode for her at least. But Amanda was one of the people that Jack was considering very hard to eliminate. And this pretty much stemmed from the fact that John and Jack had this conversation where John, I mean, he kind of lied, but at the same time, he didn't completely lie, because he just implied that Jack that Amanda wanted him out last week when John was a snake, but that never happened. Amanda never wanted Jack out, and that's just how it is. Jack completely bought into it, and Jack was fully on board with Amanda being a target of his. Mayor John was another target just because, well, nobody in this cast really likes him, but John did make a very good case on why he should be saved, just because, you know, he's incredibly neutral. He has no allies really, at least any strong allies, because he is kind of close with Alyssa and Frankie. But that then brings me to Frankie, who is the other person that was a big target mentioned in this episode. A lot of people were pointing out the fact that Frankie has great social connections with like everybody in the house. He's very likable and all that, and so Jack was also considering Frankie as another person to target. And that's basically what it came down to: Amanda, John, and Frankie. So when it came time for the saving ceremony, well, things actually didn't pan out exactly that way, but they kind of did at the same time. Because Jack was the snake, you already know all the other people that would have been saved afterwards: McLean, Brett, Derek, yada yada yada. But then Derek, who was very close with Amanda, saved her, so that was one less target for Jack to worry about, but there was still a lot of concern about having Amanda saved. And then the bottom two was Mayor John and Frankie. But actually before that, there was a little argument between Amanda and John. Amanda did get called out, so it's not like all this stuff about her being the biggest snake was just behind her back. back in the confessionals, John did call her out on being a part of a plan that he was planning when he was a snake last week. She got kind of defensive about it because she stated that she was never really fully in on the plan, but Mary and John kind of refuting this. Either way, getting back to the bottom two, it was Frankie and John. And to me, it seemed like Frankie was definitely going because Jack was just talking a lot about how much of a big threat Frankie was, and really a lot of other people were. Derek was talking about Frankie being a big threat as well. Brett was too, so it just seemed inevitable that he was going to be going home. And it kind of makes sense to kind of split up Alyssa and Frankie, even though I would not want to see them get split up personally. But in the end, Jack decided to actually turn the tables a little bit on Mayor John. Mayor John was trying to give Jack a little bit of advice on being a people pleaser and just giving the house what they want, eliminating the biggest enemy, which is him. And instead of doing that, just eliminate the biggest threat. And well, in the end, Jack actually used this against Mayor John and decided that he was going to go along with the house because, well, none of them like Mayor John, and so Mayor John was eliminated. And I will personally miss him a lot because he brought in a lot of chaos in the few episodes he was in, so I thank him for his service. And well, yeah, I definitely was a little surprised to see Frankie get saved, but I'm glad he was saved. So yeah, either way, that was another good episode of The Snake. Again, I would just like them to kind of tone down the amount of Jack that's in all the episodes, but that's all I gotta say about that. I apologize for any noise in the background. Promise, not my fault, just is what it is. But anyways, let me know down below what you thought of this episode, and also let me know what else you'd like to see me talk about on this channel. Like the video, subscribe for more videos, and yeah, thank you for watching.